I was standing at the altar in my grandmother's wedding dress, the lace sleeves feeling heavier than they had during any of the fittings. 200 faces stared at me from the pews. The church smelled like roses and expensive perfume. Everything looked perfect. The white flowers draped along every surface. The candles flickering in their holders. The string quartet in the corner, silent now, waiting. Derek stood beside me in his charcoal tuxedo, holding my hands. His palms were sweating. I could feel the moisture between our fingers. He kept smiling at me, but his eyes looked nervous. Like he knew something was coming but couldn't figure out what. Pastor William stood in front of us with his Bible open and his reading glasses perched on his nose. He'd known me since I was 7 years old. Watched me grow up in this church. Now he was supposed to marry me to the man standing beside me. He'd just finished Derek's vows. Derek had said "I do" in this strong, confident voice that made several women in the audience sigh. Now it was my turn. "Do you, Catherine, take Derek to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Pastor William said slowly, his voice echoing in the quiet church. "To have and to hold, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, as long as you both shall live?" My mouth opened, but I didn't say the words everyone was expecting. Instead, I reached for the microphone Pastor William was holding. He looked confused, but handed it to me anyway. The church went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop on the marble floor. "Actually, Pastor William," I said, my voice coming out clear and steady through the speakers, "before I answer that question, there's something everyone here needs to know." Derek's smile froze on his face. His grip on my hands tightened. In the front row, my mother Constance shifted in her seat. She was wearing a white dress. Not cream. Not ivory. White. Almost as white as mine. She'd done it on purpose, and when I'd asked her to change it, she'd refused. Now her face was going pale under all her makeup. I looked out at all the guests. Derek's mother Diane in the second row, her hands clasped together, so happy. My father George sitting on the opposite side, strong and steady. Lauren behind me as my maid of honor, holding my bouquet, her body tense because she knew what was coming. "Last night," I continued, "while I was at my rehearsal dinner celebrating with all of you, my fiancé wasn't there. He said he was sick." Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. Derek's face went from pale to completely white. "Catherine, what are you?" I pulled my hands away from his. "Don't interrupt me." The church went silent again. And my mother, I turned to look directly at Constance, left early. She said she had a terrible migraine and needed to lie down in her hotel room. Constance was gripping the edge of the pew so hard her knuckles were white. "They weren't sick," I said, turning back to face the congregation. "They were together. In my mother's hotel room. Room 412 at the Grand Harrison Hotel." The church erupted. Gasps. Shocked whispers. Someone in the back said, "Oh my God," loud enough for everyone to hear. "That's a lie." Constance stood up, her voice shrill. "She's lying." "I saw them," I said calmly into the microphone. "I went to check on Derek last night because I was worried about him being sick. I drove to my mother's hotel. I knocked on the door. And Derek answered. Shirtless." Derek grabbed my arm. "Catherine, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" I yanked my arm away. "Explain why you were half naked in my mother's hotel room 12 hours before our wedding?" Diane started crying. Derek's father stood up, looking like he wanted to kill someone. My father was already moving down the aisle toward the front, his face dark with rage. "I have proof," I said. I pulled my phone from where I'd hidden it in the folds of my dress. I took pictures. Of the hotel hallway. Of the room number. Of Derek standing in the doorway with no shirt on. Would everyone like to see them? The church descended into chaos. But I wasn't done yet. I'd walked down this aisle 10 minutes ago thinking my life was about to begin. Now I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly what kind of man I'd almost married and what kind of mother had raised me. Let me take you back to how this nightmare started. To 3 days ago, when I still believed in fairy tales and happy endings. 3 days earlier, on Wednesday morning, I woke up in my apartment feeling like the luckiest woman alive. In 3 days, I'd be married. Mrs. Catherine Morrison. I'd been practicing the signature for weeks. The wedding dress hung on the back of my closet door, protected by its white garment bag. 8 months of planning had led to this moment. Every detail was perfect. The flowers, the music, the menu at the reception. I'd created spreadsheets and timelines and checklists. Derek had been patient through all of it, even when I obsessed over tiny details like napkin colors and font choices for the programs. He'd smile and say whatever I wanted was fine. He just wanted to marry me. We'd been together for 2 years. Met at a charity fundraiser where he'd bought the most expensive auction item just to impress me. He was successful, charming, ambitious. Everything I thought I wanted. My phone buzzed with a text from him. "Good morning, beautiful. Can't wait to give you your wedding gift tonight." He was coming over for dinner. We'd agreed not to see each other the day before the wedding for tradition's sake, so tonight was our last evening together before I became his wife. I spent the morning at the venue doing a final walkthrough. The grand ballroom at the Riverside Hotel looked like something from a magazine. White flowers everywhere. Soft lighting. Tables set with crystal and china. "It's perfect," the wedding planner said, checking items off her tablet. "Everything's confirmed. The photographer, the DJ, the caterer. You're all set, Catherine." I took a picture and sent it to Derek. He replied with heart emojis. That afternoon, I met my mother for lunch. Constance was already at the restaurant when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, checking her reflection in a compact mirror. She was beautiful for 52. She'd been a beauty queen in her 20s and never quite let go of that identity. Even now, she dressed too young, wore too much makeup, sought attention from every man who walked past. Our relationship had always been complicated. She competed with me more than she mothered me. When I got accepted to college, she'd talked about how she could have gone to a better school if she hadn't gotten pregnant with me so young. When I got promoted at work, she'd mention how she could have had a career too if my father hadn't held her back. But she was my mother, and I wanted her to be part of my wedding day. "Darling." She stood and air-kissed both my cheeks, careful not to mess up her lipstick. "You look tired. Are you getting enough sleep?" "I'm fine, Mom. Just excited." We ordered salads. She picked at hers, barely eating. "I can't believe my baby is getting married," she said, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "You're so young still. Are you sure you're ready for this commitment?" "I'm 27, Mom. And yes, I'm sure." She sighed dramatically. "I just remember my first wedding. I was so naive. Thought love would be enough. Then reality set in. Derek and I are different." "That's what I thought too." She checked her phone and smiled at something on the screen. Men always seem perfect at first. I changed the subject to wedding details. She'd seen her dress, the white one, last week. I'd asked her 3 times to choose something else. She'd refused every time. "It's cream, Catherine. Not white. You're being oversensitive." "It looks white, Mom." "Well, I already bought it. And I look stunning in it. You wouldn't want your mother to look bad at your wedding, would you?" I'd given up arguing. It wasn't worth the fight. After lunch, I went home and started packing for the honeymoon. Derek and I were going to Bali for 2 weeks. I'd bought new clothes, new swimsuits, new everything. At 6, Derek arrived with takeout and a small wrapped box. "You said tonight," I protested. "The wedding's not until Saturday." "I know, but I can't wait." "Open it." Inside was a stunning necklace. Diamonds and sapphires arranged in a delicate pattern. "Derek, this is too much." "Nothing's too much for you." He fastened it around my neck and kissed my shoulder. "I can't wait to marry you, Catherine. You're everything I've ever wanted." I turned and kissed him, feeling overwhelmed with happiness. We ate dinner on my couch, talking about the future. Kids someday. A bigger house. Growing old together. "Promise me something," Derek said, taking my hand. "Promise me we'll always be honest with each other. No secrets." "I promise," I said. "No secrets." He smiled and pulled me closer. Looking back now, I want to reach through time and shake myself. Wake up. Pay attention. See what was right in front of me. But I was blind. Trusting. Stupid. The next day, Thursday, the cracks started to show. I just didn't want to see them yet. Thursday morning, I woke up with a strange feeling in my stomach. Not quite anxiety, not quite excitement. Something in between that I couldn't name. Derek had left around midnight. I'd kissed him goodbye at the door, wearing the necklace he'd given me, feeling like a princess in a fairy tale. Now, in the bright morning light, I decided to drop off some honeymoon essentials at his apartment. Sunscreen, the travel documents, things he'd asked me to pick up. I had a key to his place. Had for 6 months now. He'd given it to me one night after dinner, saying he wanted me to feel at home there. His car wasn't in the parking lot when I arrived, which meant he'd already left for work. Good. I could just drop everything off and leave him a cute note. I unlocked the door and stepped into his apartment. Everything was neat and organized like always. Derek hated mess. I walked into his bedroom to leave the travel documents on his dresser. That's when I saw it. A wine glass on his nightstand. Red lipstick stained on the rim. I picked it up slowly, staring at the perfect lip print. I didn't wear red lipstick. Never had. It wasn't my color. My mind raced through explanations. Maybe from last week? Maybe one of his friends brought someone over? But the glass wasn't dusty. It looked recently used. I set it down carefully and looked around the room more closely. The bed was made, but something seemed off. I couldn't put my finger on what. I left the documents and went home, trying to shake the uneasy feeling. At noon, I met my mother for our final wedding detail lunch. We were confirming last-minute things, making sure everything was set. Constance was dressed inappropriately for a casual lunch. Low-cut black top, tight jeans, heels. Her makeup was heavy, her perfume overwhelming. "You look nice," I said, though I didn't mean it. "Thank you, darling. I have plans after this." She smiled secretively. "A date? Maybe. Someone who appreciates me at least." We went over the final details. The seating chart. The timeline. Who was giving toasts. Constance kept checking her phone, smiling at messages, typing back quickly. "New boyfriend?" I asked. Her smile was strange. Satisfied. "Maybe. Someone who makes me feel young again." Something about the way she said it made my skin crawl, but I pushed the feeling away. That evening, I met Lauren and the bridesmaids at a wine bar. Just a small gathering, nothing crazy since the rehearsal dinner was tomorrow night. Lauren pulled me aside after our first glass of wine. "I need to show you something, and you're probably going to hate me for it." "What?" She pulled out her phone and opened her photos. "I was at that coffee shop on Market Street 2 days ago. The one with the good lattes. I was taking a picture of my drink for Instagram, and I didn't notice until later what was in the background." She showed me the photo. Her latte in the foreground, the cafe behind it. And there, in the corner, at a small table, were 2 people sitting very close together. Derek and my mother. My stomach dropped. "It's probably nothing," I heard myself say. "Mom's been helping with wedding stuff. They were probably coordinating surprises for me." "Catherine." Lauren zoomed in on the image. "Look at them." I looked. Really looked. Constance's hand was on Derek's arm. They were leaning toward each other, faces close. The way they were looking at each other wasn't how a future mother-in-law and son-in-law should look at each other. It was intimate. "When was this taken?" I asked. "Tuesday. 2 days ago." Tuesday. The day before Derek gave me the necklace and promised no secrets. "There's an explanation," I said, but my voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. "Catherine, I know you don't want to hear this, but something feels wrong. The way they're sitting, the body language." "Stop." I couldn't hear anymore. "My mother wouldn't do that. And Derek loves me." "You're reading too much into a photo." Lauren looked like she wanted to argue but didn't. "Okay. I'm sorry. I'm probably just being paranoid." But she didn't look sorry. She looked worried. I went home early, claiming I was tired. Lauren offered to come with me, but I said no. In my apartment, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind spinning. The lipstick on the wine glass. Derek and my mother at the coffee shop. The way Constance had been dressed today, secretive about her plans. The way Derek had been working late so often lately. I pulled out my phone and looked at the photo Lauren had shown me again. She'd texted it to me before I left. I zoomed in on their faces. On the way Derek was smiling at my mother. On the way her hand rested on his arm so casually. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Can't wait for the rehearsal tomorrow. Going to be perfect. Love you so much. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Love you too. At 2 in the morning, I almost called off the wedding. Almost texted Derek and told him we needed to talk. Almost confronted my mother. But I didn't. Because I didn't want it to be true. So I convinced myself I was being paranoid. That Lauren was overreacting. That the lipstick had an innocent explanation. I fell asleep telling myself everything was fine. Tomorrow was the rehearsal. Tomorrow, I'd see Derek and my mother interact, and I'd realize I'd been silly to worry. Tomorrow, everything would make sense. I had no idea how right I was. Friday morning arrived with gray skies that matched my mood. I'd barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that photo of Derek and my mother at the coffee shop, their heads close together, her hand on his arm. The rehearsal was scheduled for 4 in the afternoon, followed by dinner at 6. I spent the morning getting ready with the bridesmaids at a salon. Nails, hair trial runs, last-minute preparations. Everyone was excited and laughing. I smiled and nodded at the right moments, but my mind was somewhere else. Lauren kept giving me concerned looks. She knew something was wrong. At 3, I drove to the church. The wedding party was already gathering. Derek's groomsmen were joking around near the entrance. My bridesmaids were inside arranging their positions. Derek arrived at 3:30, looking handsome in dark jeans and a button-down shirt. He saw me and smiled, walking over to kiss me. Hey, beautiful. Ready to practice getting married? Are you feeling okay? I asked, studying his face. You look a little pale. I'm fine. Maybe just wedding nerves. He laughed, but it sounded forced. My mother arrived at 3:45, dressed in a tight red dress that was completely inappropriate for a wedding rehearsal. Several people stared at her as she walked in. She hugged me, her perfume suffocating. Darling, you look tense. Relax. Tomorrow's going to be perfect. I watched Derek over her shoulder. He was looking at her. Not just a polite glance. A real look. His eyes traveled down her body and then quickly away when he noticed me watching. My stomach twisted. The rehearsal began. Pastor William walked us through the ceremony step by step. Where to stand, when to speak, how to move. Derek held my hand through the practice, but his palm was sweating. You okay? I whispered. Just nervous. This is really happening. At 5:30, right before we were supposed to leave for the dinner venue, Derek pulled me aside near the pastor's office. Babe, I'm so sorry, but I'm not feeling great. What's wrong? Stomach issues. I think I ate something bad at lunch. It's getting worse. I looked at him carefully. His color was fine. His breathing was normal. He didn't look sick at all. Do you need to skip the dinner? No. I'll be fine. I'll just take some medicine and power through. But 20 minutes later, as we were all heading to our cars to drive to the restaurant, Derek found me again. Catherine, I'm really sorry. I'm getting worse. I think I need to go home and lie down. I don't want to risk being really sick tomorrow. I can come with you. No, stay at your dinner. You've been planning this forever. Everyone's here for you. I'll just sleep it off. He kissed my forehead and walked to his car. I watched him go, and something felt wrong. He walked normally. Got in his car normally. Didn't move like someone who was about to be sick. He drove away quickly, not like someone who was ill. At the restaurant, the dinner was beautiful. Long tables decorated with flowers and candles. Everyone was laughing and toasting and celebrating. But Derek's empty chair next to me felt like a black hole. My mother was there, sitting at the family table. She picked at her salmon and kept checking her phone under the table. I saw the screen light up her face several times. At 6:45, she stood up abruptly. Darling, I'm so sorry. I have a terrible migraine coming on. I can feel it. I need to go lie down before it gets worse. You seemed fine a minute ago. These things come on fast, you know that. I just need to rest in my hotel room. I'll be perfect for tomorrow, I promise. She kissed my cheek, grabbed her purse, and left before I could say anything else. Lauren was sitting across from me. She watched Constance leave, then looked at me with wide eyes. Your fiancé gets sick. Your mom gets a migraine. Both leave early. Both were completely fine an hour ago. Stop, I said quietly. Catherine, please tell me you see the pattern here. I said stop, but my hands were shaking. I set down my wine glass carefully before anyone could see. Derek had left at 5:45. My mother left at 6:45. Both claiming sudden illnesses. Both perfectly healthy earlier. The Grand Harrison Hotel, where my mother was staying, was 15 minutes from here. I stood up abruptly. Where are you going? Lauren asked. To check on Derek. Make sure he's okay. Catherine. I need to see for myself that I'm wrong. That I'm being paranoid. I need to prove to myself that there's nothing going on. Lauren grabbed my arm. And what if you're not wrong? I pulled away. Then I need to know that too. I drove to Derek's apartment first, my heart pounding so hard I felt dizzy. His car wasn't there. I called him. It went straight to voicemail. I sat in my car outside his empty apartment for 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe. Then I drove to the Grand Harrison Hotel. The Grand Harrison was lit up against the dark sky, all glass and modern architecture. Valet parking attendants stood by the entrance in their uniforms. Everything looked elegant and expensive. I parked in the garage instead of using valet. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn off the engine. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe Derek really was sick at home. Maybe my mother really did have a migraine. Maybe I was being crazy and paranoid and ruining my own rehearsal dinner by leaving early. But I had to know. I walked through the lobby trying to look normal. A woman in a wedding panic, checking on her sick mother. Nothing suspicious. The front desk clerk smiled at me. Can I help you? Yes, I need my mother's room number. Constance Hartley. She's staying here for my wedding tomorrow, but she left dinner early with a migraine. I want to check on her. Of course. Let me look that up for you. She typed into her computer. Room 412. 4th floor. Thank you. I walked to the elevators on legs that felt like they might give out. Pressed the button for the 4th floor. Watched the numbers climb. 3, 4. The doors opened. The hallway was quiet. Thick carpet muffled my footsteps. Room numbers in brass on each door. 408, 410, 412. I stood outside the door for a full minute, my heart hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. I heard voices inside. Low and muffled, but definitely voices. A man's voice. A woman's laugh. My mother's laugh. That high-pitched giggle she used when she was flirting. Then a deeper laugh. I knew that laugh. My hand moved without me deciding to move it. I knocked on the door. The voices inside stopped immediately. Complete silence. Then footsteps approaching. The door opened just a crack. Derek stood there. No shirt. His hair messy like he'd been lying down. His face went from curious to absolutely white when he saw me. Catherine, what are you? I pushed past him into the room. My mother was on the bed. She was wearing a silk robe, cream-colored and barely closed. Her makeup was smeared. Her hair was messed up. On the nightstand, 2 wine glasses. One with red lipstick on the rim. Red lipstick. Like the glass I'd found in Derek's apartment yesterday morning. Clothes were scattered on the floor. Derek's shirt. His shoes. My mother's red dress crumpled near the bathroom door. I looked from the clothes to the wine to my mother to Derek. Nobody spoke. The room smelled like perfume and wine and something else I didn't want to identify. Darling, this isn't what it looks like. My mother's voice was calm. Too calm. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. Hysterical laughter bubbled up from my chest. Really? Because it looks like you're sleeping with my fiancé the night before my wedding. Catherine, let me explain. Derek reached for me. Don't touch me. I stepped back so fast I hit the wall. Don't you dare touch me. It just happened, my mother said, sitting up, adjusting her robe. We didn't plan this. When? The word came out like a scream. When did this start? Derek and Constance looked at each other. That look told me everything. How long? I asked again, my voice dropping to something cold and deadly. 2 months, Derek said quietly. 2 months. 2 months of him kissing me goodnight and then calling her. 2 months of family dinners where they smiled at each other across the table. 2 months of my mother helping plan my wedding while sleeping with my fiancé. Get out, my mother said suddenly. Catherine, you need to leave so we can talk about this rationally. I need to leave? This is your hotel room where you're fucking my fiancé. Don't be crude, Constance snapped, and that tone, that condescending tone she'd used my whole life, made something snap inside me. I pulled out my phone and took a picture. Of the room number on the inside of the door. Of Derek shirtless. Of my mother in her robe. Of the wine glasses and the scattered clothes. What are you doing? Derek lunged for my phone. I dodged him and ran for the door. Got into the hallway. He followed me, still shirtless, but stopped when he realized other hotel guests were staring. Catherine, please, we need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. I walked to the elevator. Pressed the button. The doors opened immediately. Derek stood in the hallway, looking desperate. What are you going to do? I stepped into the elevator and looked at him one last time. I don't know yet. The doors closed on his terrified face. I made it to my car before I started crying. Not gentle tears. Huge, gasping sobs that made it hard to breathe. I called Lauren. She answered on the first ring. What happened? You were right. About everything. Silence. Then, where are you? Hotel parking garage. Stay there. I'm coming to get you. She arrived 15 minutes later and found me still sitting in my car, staring at nothing. She got in the passenger seat and pulled me into her arms while I cried. What do you want to do? She asked when I finally stopped. I wiped my face and looked at her. I want to cancel the wedding. Okay. We'll call everyone tonight. No. I sat up straighter. I want to cancel the marriage. But I'm still walking down that aisle tomorrow. Lauren stared at me. What? Everything's paid for. 200 people are coming. My father spent $30,000. Catherine, nobody cares about the money. I care about the truth. I care that everyone knows exactly who Derek is. Who my mother is. You want to humiliate them. I want justice. Lauren drove me back to her apartment. I couldn't go home. Couldn't be alone. Couldn't face my empty apartment where I'd been packing for a honeymoon that would never happen. We sat on her couch at midnight. I hadn't stopped shaking. You don't have to do this, Lauren said carefully. We can call it off right now. Send a mass text. Cancel everything. You never have to see either of them again. And then what? They get to slink away quietly? Everyone feels sorry for me because I got left at the altar? People whisper about what I did wrong, why he cheated. Nobody would blame you. Yes, they would. You know they would. They'd ask what I could have done differently. Why wasn't I enough? There's always blame for the woman who gets left. Lauren was quiet. But if I do this my way, I continued, my voice getting stronger, everyone knows the truth. No rumors. No gossip. Just facts. Derek cheated with my mother the night before our wedding. That's what happened. That's what everyone will know. You'll be humiliated too. For 5 minutes. Then I'll be the woman who stood up for herself. Who didn't let them get away with it. Lauren studied my face for a long moment. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. We stayed up until 3 in the morning planning. Lauren asked questions I hadn't thought of. What if Derek didn't show up? What if my mother didn't come? What if they confessed before the ceremony? They won't, I said. They think they got away with it. They think I'm home crying, maybe calling to cancel. They don't know what I'm planning. At 6 Saturday morning, Derek started calling. I didn't answer. He texted, Catherine, please. We need to talk about this. I made a terrible mistake. Your mother seduced me. It meant nothing. I deleted the message without responding. At 7, my mother called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Darling, I know you're upset, but you're overreacting. These things happen. Derek and I got carried away. It's not worth throwing away your whole wedding over one mistake. One mistake. Like it was a wrong turn on the highway. I deleted that too. At 8, I went to the hotel where I was supposed to get ready with my bridesmaids. They were already there, excited and chattering, unaware that anything was wrong. Where were you last night? One of them asked. You left the dinner so early. Just needed some rest, I said, forcing a smile. I put on my makeup. Let them do my hair in the elaborate updo we'd planned. stepped into my grandmother's wedding dress, the one she'd worn 60 years ago when she married the love of her life. "You look beautiful," Lauren whispered, zipping up the back. "Are you really doing this?" "Yes." "Okay, then I am right behind you." The photographer arrived and started taking pictures. Me in the dress. Me with the bouquet. Me looking out the window like a bride lost in happy thoughts. I smiled for every photo. Played the part perfectly. At one, my father arrived to walk me down the aisle. He took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "Catherine, what is it?" "Dad, I need you to trust me today." "What happened?" "I'll tell you later. Right now, I just need you to walk me down that aisle and trust that I know what I'm doing." His face was full of concern, but he nodded. "Always, sweetheart." At 1:30, I got a text from Derek. "I'm at the church. Please be here. Please give me a chance to explain. I love you." I didn't respond. At 1:45, the wedding coordinator knocked on the door. "It's time." My bridesmaids lined up. Lauren squeezed my hand. "Last chance to back out." "I'm not backing out." We walked to the church entrance. Through the doors, I could see 200 people in the pews. All dressed up. All waiting. I could see Derek at the altar in his tuxedo, looking nervous but composed. I could see my mother in the front row, wearing that white dress, looking smug and satisfied like she'd won some kind of prize. My father offered me his arm. "Ready?" "Ready." The music started. The church doors opened. Everyone stood and turned to look at me. I walked down that aisle with my head high and my bouquet steady in my hands. Derek's face when he saw me was pure relief. He actually thought I was going to marry him. Thought I'd forgiven him already. My mother smiled at me from her seat. Proud. Happy. Completely unaware of what was coming. I reached the altar. My father kissed my cheek and whispered, "I love you, no matter what." Then he stepped back. I stood facing Derek. He took my hands. They were sweating. "You came," he whispered. I didn't respond. Pastor William opened his Bible and began the ceremony. I waited. Through the readings. Through the traditional words about love and commitment. Through Derek's vows where he promised to be faithful and true. Faithful. The word almost made me laugh. Then Pastor William turned to me for my vows. "Actually," I said, "I'll wait for the official questions." He looked confused but continued. Finally, the moment came. "Do you, Derek, take Catherine to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do," Derek said, smiling. Then Pastor William turned to me. "Do you, Catherine, take Derek to be your lawfully wedded husband, for better or for worse?" I reached for the microphone. And I told them all the truth. The microphone felt solid in my hand. Real. This was really happening. "Actually, Pastor William, before I answer that question, there's something everyone here needs to know." 200 faces stared at me. The church went so quiet I could hear someone's phone vibrate 3 rows back. Derek's confident smile started cracking at the edges. His hand reached for mine, but I stepped back. "Last night, while I was at my rehearsal dinner celebrating with all of you, my fiancé wasn't there. He told me he was sick with stomach problems." Confused murmurs rippled through the pews. "And my mother left early, claiming she had a terrible migraine." Constance started to stand up. I looked directly at her. "Sit down, Mother." Something in my voice made her sink back into the pew. They weren't sick. They were together. At the Grand Harrison Hotel. Room 412. The church erupted. Gasps. Shocked whispers. Someone said, "Oh my God," loud enough for everyone to hear. "That's a lie." Constance's voice was shrill. "She's making this up." I saw them. My voice cut through the noise. I went to check on Derek because I was worried. I knocked on the door. Derek answered. Shirtless. My mother was on the bed in a robe. Wine glasses on the nightstand. Clothes all over the floor. Derek grabbed my arm. "Catherine, please, let me explain." I ripped my arm away. "Explain what?" "Explain why you were half naked in my mother's hotel room 12 hours before our wedding." His mother, Diane, was crying in the second row. His father looked murderous. I pulled out my phone. "I have proof. Pictures. Would everyone like to see them?" "No." Derek lunged for my phone, but Lauren stepped between us. Touch her and I'll break your arm, Lauren said calmly. I looked out at the congregation, at all the people who'd gotten dressed up, driven here, brought gifts, taken time off work to celebrate what they thought was going to be the happiest day of my life. I found out last night, and I had a choice. I could cancel everything, waste all the money, let them both slink away quietly and pretend it never happened. Or I could stand here and make sure everyone knew the truth. I turned to Derek. You want to marry me for better or for worse? This is the worse. Everyone now knows you're a cheater who slept with my mother the night before our wedding. His face was bright red. Several of his business associates were already standing to leave, shaking their heads in disgust. I turned to Constance. And you? My own mother. She was crying now, mascara running down her face, but I felt nothing. You competed with me my entire life. For attention. For beauty. For validation. But sleeping with my fiancé the night before my wedding? That's not competition. That's betrayal. That's evil. He pursued me. Constance shouted. He came to me. I don't care who started it. My voice echoed off the church walls. You're my mother. You should have said no. You should have protected me. The church was chaos now. People standing, talking, pointing. Derek's groomsmen were backing away from him. My bridesmaids were crying. Pastor William looked shell-shocked. I turned back to him and handed him the microphone. To answer your question, Pastor William. No, I do not take this man to be my husband. I don't take cheaters. I don't take liars. And I definitely don't take men who sleep with my mother. I picked up my dress and walked down the aisle. The crowd parted like I was on fire. Some people looked horrified. Some looked sympathetic. Some were already pulling out their phones. Derek was shouting behind me. Catherine, wait. Please. We can fix this. I didn't turn around. My father caught up with me outside the church. He pulled me into his arms. I saw them, he said quietly. 2 weeks ago. Having coffee together. The way they looked at each other. I should have told you, but I didn't have proof. I thought maybe I was reading too much into it. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Dad. I handled it. Derek burst through the church doors, still in his tuxedo. My father stepped in front of me. You come near my daughter again, and I'll have you arrested. She's done with you. Inside the church, I could hear people leaving. Voices raised in shock and judgment. My mother's voice above all of them, trying to explain, to defend herself. Nobody was listening to her. Lauren appeared with my purse and phone. Let's get you out of here. We drove to her apartment. I sat in her passenger seat in my grandmother's wedding dress, staring out the window. You okay? Lauren asked. Ask me in a year. The story spread fast. By evening, everyone in our social circle knew. By Monday, Derek's business partners were distancing themselves from him. Nobody wanted to work with the man who'd cheated on his fiancée with her mother. Constance called 50 times that first week. I blocked her number. She tried email, social media, even sent letters to my apartment. I returned them all unopened. Some betrayals couldn't be forgiven. Derek tried too. Apologies. Explanations. Flowers. I ignored all of it. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Derek had lost his job. That Constance was moving to another state because she couldn't handle the judgment. I felt nothing hearing the news. No satisfaction. No sadness. Nothing. A year later, I was sitting in a coffee shop when a woman approached me. You're Catherine, right? The one who? Yes. She sat down without asking. I just wanted to say thank you. My fiancé was cheating on me. I found out a month before our wedding. I was going to go through with it anyway because I was embarrassed. But then I heard your story. About what you did. And I called it off. You gave me courage. She left before I could respond. It happened more often than I expected. Women who'd heard the story. Who said I'd inspired them to stand up for themselves. To demand better. To refuse to be victims. I became a legend in our city. The bride who'd exposed her cheating fiancé and betraying mother at the altar. Some people thought I'd been cruel. Most thought I'd been brave. I didn't care what anyone thought. I'd stood in my grandmother's wedding dress in front of 200 people and told the truth. I'd refused to be humiliated in private so they could save face in public. I'd chosen myself. 2 years later, I was genuinely happy. I'd gone to therapy, worked through trust issues, started dating again, carefully this time, watching for red flags I'd missed with Derek. I never spoke to my mother again. She was dead to me. Sometimes people asked if I regretted it, if I wished I'd handled it differently. No, I always said. I regret trusting the wrong people, but I don't regret telling the truth. I'd walked down that aisle expecting to say I do. Instead, I'd said something more important. No. No to being treated like I didn't matter. No to people who betrayed me. No to a life built on lies. That single word had set me free. And every time I thought about that moment, standing at the altar, microphone in hand, my mother's face going pale and Derek's world crumbling around him, I felt proud. Not of the pain I'd caused, but of the strength I'd found. I'd walked down that aisle as a naive woman who believed in fairy tales. I'd walked back up it as someone who knew her own worth. And that made all the difference.